You were taught to believe in romance as something pure, something almost sacred, a force driven by honesty, vulnerability, and emotional generosity. You were told that if you opened your heart, if you gave without hesitation, if you placed someone else above yourself, you would be rewarded with loyalty, admiration, and love. But observe reality, not stories. Watch how people actually behave when emotions are involved. Watch who is pursued, who is respected, who is remembered. It is rarely the one who gives everything. It is almost always the one who controls something. Romance, as it is sold to you, is a performance, a carefully constructed illusion that hides the mechanics of human nature. It tells you that love is about mutual surrender. But in truth, there is always an imbalance. There is always one who leads and one who follows, one who sets the emotional tone and one who reacts to it. Power does not destroy attraction, it creates it. Think about this. Why does unpredictability excite people more than stability? Why does emotional tension linger longer than comfort? Why do people obsess over those who are distant, while taking for granted those who are always present? Because the human mind is not wired for constant peace. It is wired for stimulation, for uncertainty, for the chase. Romance disguises this as passion, but beneath it lies a simple dynamic: control. The one who controls the emotional rhythm of the interaction holds the power, and the one who holds the power becomes the center of attention. When you give endlessly, you remove all resistance. You make yourself easy to understand, easy to predict, easy to replace. There is no mystery left, no tension, no reason for the other person to invest energy in figuring you out. And without investment, there is no attachment. You see, people do not bond deeply with what is freely given. They bond with what they must work to understand, what they must earn, what they fear losing. This is where romance deceives you. It tells you to be open. But openness without restraint exposes everything too quickly. And when everything is visible, nothing is intriguing. Power, on the other hand, operates differently. Power withholds. Power chooses when to reveal and when to remain silent. Power understands that perception is more influential than intention. You may intend to show love through constant attention, but what is perceived is availability, and availability lowers perceived value. Now consider the individual who does less, who speaks less, who reveals less, who is not always present, not always reacting, not always seeking to please. That person creates questions, and questions demand answers. The mind becomes engaged. Why are they distant? What are they thinking? Do they care? And suddenly, attention shifts toward them, not because they gave more, but because they controlled more. This is the reality beneath romance. Attraction is not a reward for effort. It is a response to perception, and perception is shaped by power. This is why those who follow the rules of romance often find themselves confused. They do everything right. They communicate clearly. They express affection openly. They prioritize the other person. And yet, they feel overlooked because they are playing a different game. They are operating under the illusion, while others are operating within reality. In reality, emotional experiences are not built on comfort alone. They are built on contrast, highs and lows, presence and absence, certainty and doubt. Without contrast, emotions flatten, and when emotions flatten, interest fades. Romance tries to eliminate discomfort, but discomfort is what creates intensity, and intensity is what people remember. The one who can create emotional variation, who can introduce moments of distance, followed by moments of connection, who can remain composed while others react. That is the one who becomes unforgettable, not because they are more loving, but because they are more controlled. Understand this distinction. Love as an idea is passive. Power as a force is active. Love hopes to be received. Power ensures it is noticed. And, in the world of human interaction, what is noticed always outweighs what is intended. You may feel that withholding is dishonest, that creating tension is manipulative, but look again. This is not about deception. It is about understanding how people already behave. You are not changing the rules. You are seeing them clearly for the first time. People do not fall for perfection. They fall for emotional impact, for the way someone makes them feel uncertain, excited, challenged. Romance promises stability, but stability without variation becomes invisible. And what becomes invisible loses value. So while you were taught to give more, reveal more, care more, the truth operates in reverse. Value is not built through excess. It is built through control, through timing, through the ability to hold something back, not everything. Just enough to keep the mind engaged, enough to maintain intrigue, enough to remind the other person that your presence is not guaranteed. Because the moment something feels guaranteed, it stops being appreciated. And the illusion of romance begins to collapse, revealing what was always there beneath it. You believe affection is the path to being valued. That the more you show care, the more you prove loyalty, the more you express your feelings, the more someone will respect you. It sounds logical, it feels right, but observe closely, and you will see the contradiction. Affection, when given freely and constantly, does not elevate your position. It lowers it, because affection is abundant. Anyone can give it. Anyone can say the right words, offer attention, provide reassurance. But control is rare. Control requires discipline. It requires restraint. It requires the ability to act against your own impulses. And that is precisely why it commands respect. When you lead with affection, you reveal your position immediately. You show that you are invested, that you are available, that your focus is already captured, and in doing so, you remove any challenge. You remove any uncertainty. You remove any need for the other person to earn your attention. But respect does not grow in comfort. It grows in tension, in the subtle understanding that access to you is not guaranteed, that your time, your energy, your attention must be deserved. Think of the moments when you admired someone the most. Was it when they gave everything to you without hesitation? Or was it when they seemed composed, self-contained, slightly out of reach, when their attention felt selective, when their presence felt intentional, not automatic? That feeling, that slight distance, creates importance, because it signals something powerful. It signals that they are not controlled by you, and people instinctively respect what they cannot control. Affection, when uncontrolled, places you in a reactive state. You begin to adjust your behavior based on how the other person responds. You reply quickly, hoping to maintain connection. You give more, hoping to secure their interest. You explain yourself, hoping to avoid misunderstanding. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to orbit around them. Your actions become predictable. Your emotional state becomes visible. And predictability removes power. Control, however, reverses this dynamic. Control means you choose when to respond. You choose how much to reveal. You choose when to engage and when to withdraw, not out of fear, but out of awareness. Because you understand that constant availability creates familiarity, and familiarity, without boundaries, creates indifference. When you maintain control, you create space, and in that space, the other person begins to think. They begin to wonder. They begin to question your level of interest, and those questions pull their attention toward you. This is the subtle shift most people fail to recognize. Respect is not given to the one who chases. It is given to the one who can walk away, because walking away requires strength. It requires the willingness to lose something in order to preserve your position. And that willingness is felt, even if it is never spoken. When someone senses that you are not afraid to withdraw your attention, they become more careful with how they treat you. They begin to value your presence more, not because you demanded it, but because you demonstrated it. Affection asks for approval, control creates it. Now consider the danger of overgiving. When you give too much attention, too much reassurance, too much validation, you remove the other person's need to invest. They no longer have to earn your interest. They no longer have to question your feelings. And without that effort, their emotional involvement weakens. Because people value what they contribute to, not what is handed to them. This is why control is essential. It regulates the flow of your attention. It ensures that what you give has weight, that your words are not constant noisy, but selective signals, that your presence is not expected but appreciated. And this does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean withholding everything. That would be another form of imbalance. True control is measured. It allows moments of warmth, but never at the cost of your position. It allows connection but never dependency, because dependency shifts the balance of power. The moment you need someone more than they need you, your influence weakens. And they feel it, even if they cannot explain it. Control protects you from that imbalance. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you centered. It ensures that your actions are chosen, not driven by emotion. And that is what people respect most. Not perfection, not endless kindness, but composure. The ability to remain steady when emotions fluctuate. The ability to hold your ground when tested. The ability to maintain your value without seeking constant validation. Affection may win attention for a moment, but control secures respect over time, because attention can be given lightly. But respect must be earned, and it is earned by those who understand that their presence is not something to give away freely, but something to manage with precision. You have been told that closeness is the foundation of connection, that the more present you are, the more available you become, the stronger the bond will grow. It sounds comforting. It feels natural. But once again, reality does not follow comfort. It follows tension. Closeness, when given too freely, does not strengthen desire. It suffocates it. Because when you are always there, always responding, always within reach, you remove the very thing that fuels attraction. Uncertainty. The human mind is not captivated by what it fully understands. It is captivated by what it cannot completely grasp. An emotional distance creates that gap, that space where curiosity begins to form. When you are constantly present, you answer every question before it is even asked. You reveal every thought, every intention, every feeling. There is no mystery left, no room for imagination. And without imagination, desire has nothing to build upon. But when you create distance, something changes. Silence replaces constant communication. Absence replaces predictable presence. And in that silence, the mind becomes active. They begin to think about you, not because you are there, but because you are not. This is where most people make their greatest mistake. They believe that being more available will increase their importance, so they reply instantly. They initiate constantly. They make themselves accessible at all times, and in doing so, they unknowingly reduce their own impact. Because importance is not measured by frequency, it is measured by significance, and significance requires space. Think about the moments that stay with you the longest. They are not the constant, repetitive interactions. They are the rare ones, the unexpected ones, the moments that broke the pattern. Distance creates those moments. It disrupts predictability, and when predictability is disrupted, attention increases. Now consider the emotional effect of absence. When someone is always there, their presence becomes normal, expected, taken for granted. But when that presence is removed even briefly, it creates a shift. A subtle discomfort, a question. Why are they not here? What are they doing? Who has their attention now? These questions may seem small, but they accumulate. They grow. And over time they turn into focus. Focus turns into emotional investment, and emotional investment becomes attachment. This is not about manipulation. It is about understanding how attention works. People do not invest emotionally in what is constantly given. They invest in what they must mentally return to, what they must think about, what they must try to understand. Distance forces that return. It pulls their thoughts back to you again and again, and with each return, the connection deepens. Not because of what you are doing, but because of what they are feeling. Now, there is a difference between absence and disappearance. Complete disappearance breaks connection, but controlled distance strengthens it. It is not about vanishing. It is about not being fully accessible, not always predictable, not always immediate, because immediacy removes anticipation. And anticipation is one of the strongest emotional drivers. When someone does not know when they will hear from you, when your presence is not guaranteed, every interaction gains weight. Every message carries more impact. Every moment becomes more significant, because it is not constant. It is chosen, and what is chosen is valued more than what is automatic. Distance also creates a subtle form of influence. When you are not always present, the other person begins to adjust. They begin to seek your attention, to initiate more, to invest more effort into maintaining the connection, and in doing so, the dynamic shifts. They move toward you, instead of you constantly moving toward them. This is where obedience begins to form, not in the obvious sense, but in behavior, in the way they prioritize you, in the way they respond to your presence, in the way they adapt to your rhythm, because you have established something powerful. Your attention is not guaranteed. It must be earned, and once that belief is established, their behavior changes. They become more aware of your reactions, more cautious with their actions, more invested in maintaining your interest, all because you created space. Space that forced them to step forward. Now understand this clearly. Distance is not coldness. It is not indifference. It is controlled presence. It is the ability to step back without losing connection, to remain engaged without being consumed. Because the moment you become consumed, you lose perspective, you lose control, and when you lose control, the balance shifts away from you. Distance protects that balance. It keeps your value intact. It ensures that your presence remains impactful, not because you are always there, but because when you are there, it matters. And that is the difference most never understand. They chase closeness believing it will secure connection, but in doing so, they remove the very tension that makes connection meaningful. They flood the space until nothing feels special, until nothing stands out, until they themselves become background noise. But the one who understands distance, the one who knows when to step back, when to remain silent, when to reappear, that person controls the emotional flow. And the one who controls the flow controls the experience.